All right, he joins us every week, courtesy of the Bud Light guest line. All guests appear on the Bud Light guest line. Bud Light, easy to drink, easy to enjoy, just like Cam Inman. What's up, Cam?
They're making me want to go crack some Bud Lights that are in the media room fridge right now. But
listen, I'm not gonna drop dime on you, but I know you're kind of an IPA guy. But that's all right.
Yes, I am. Hey, this was big breaking news on Saturday at the Niners playoff opener as they put a beer tap in Levi Stadium press box for postgame. The problem is I did not make it back up to the press box in time because I usually do my writing after we do the locker room, and we have a downstairs bunker. And then so I swung by to see if it was still flowing on my way out, but no, it was cut off, which is fine. It was all good, but I liked the effort, and it brought me back to my childhood because on this I'm digressing. But when I was impressionable young teenager, I toured Candlestick.
Sure.
And they had a beer tap in the press box, and I found my calling as a sports writer there and then.
There you go. There's a little insight for 49er fans and Bay Area sports fans. Let me ask you this. John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan, how do you think they're assessing, what lies ahead and kind of what the reason? I mean, are they looking at this team as this could be the start of something great, or are they looking at this like you never know when you're going to be back? I know Brock Purdy is Mr. Irrelevant, but we should win this thing. Like, what's the balance there?
Yeah, I think both can be true because they've set it up to the point, Matt, where they're trying to make their third NFC championship in 4 years, right? So obviously the window's open. It's been open since 2019, even though they had all the injuries in 2020. And yes, every team's championship window would close, right? Unless you have a Tom Brady that can last 20 years at quarterback. I don't know if Brock Purdy would be that guy. But I think they've put such a great system in place where you don't get the feeling like, let's go 10 years ago when Harbaugh was coaching them and they made 3 straight NFC championship games. You knew the window was going to close fast because you had some older players. The Niners have a couple older players, but there's a great mix of youth as well. And the way they've structured contracts, they're not in salary cap hell in the next couple of years. They've spread it out really well. So they can say, yes, we're in the window. And at the same time, they know that there's urgency because they know you can't take for granted getting to this stage and getting back to the Super Bowl. If Shanahan wants to make a Super Bowl again and atone for what happened 3 years ago.
Cam, let me ask you this. A lot of people are making a lot about Dallas's running game. But this is not the 90s version of the Cowboys. I don't think they're going to have much success running the ball. And if they have any chance to win, it's going to be Dak throwing to the multiple tight ends and CeeDee Lamb. How concerned are you about the Niners secondary? Because I still haven't erased the Raider game where Stidham had some success. I know that wasn't a playoff game. DK Metcalf has some success, but is Cam Inman concerned about the Niners secondary this Sunday?
Actually, I'm not, and there's a couple reasons why. And I get your concern, and we've seen some breakdowns over the last month or two. But that's the NFL, right? And if it's overreacting, all these guys, they don't stink, obviously. Mooney Ward had his worst game on Saturday. But here's the thing. He broke into the NFL in 2018 as an undrafted rookie with the Cowboys. A week into camp in 2018, he picked off Dak Prescott, and he was telling me, gosh, earlier in the season, that's when he knew he could make it in the NFL. Last year, when he was with the Chiefs, they played the Cowboys. They beat the Cowboys. He picked off Dak Prescott in the end zone. So whatever bad feelings he had from last game against the Seahawks in the playoffs, I'd imagine those are gone because he's fueled up and ready to take on Dak again. And then Deommodore Lenoir, who's kind of gotten picked on so much since replacing Emmanuel Mosley, 3-4 months ago, him getting that interception in the fourth quarter, it just showed that, he's aggressive. And yes, he's been picked on, but he's going to stay aggressive, and he's got the right mindset. So I'm not worried about those two guys. And then Jimmy Ward, obviously, is Jimmy, who's uber confident and thinks he's the best defensive back in the world, which is great. And then I would be a little bit more concerned, like you said, those running backs, especially Pollard, just because he's quick and elusive. He's going to try to turn the corner on these guys, and that's where the Niners linebacker speed is going to have to come into play.
Cam Inman joining us on 95.7 The Game. This segment is brought to you by Anheuser-Busch, and Cam joins us on the Bud Light guest line. Let me ask you this. Guru and I always have kind of a back and forth about what you want out of a franchise, and one of the things that I would want is a team, not that he doesn't, but I look at the teams that have put together, let's say, 10-year runs. 8 of 10 years are in the playoffs. The Patriots obviously have had an unbelievably consistent run. The Packers last 10, 12 years. Andy Reid did it in Kansas City and kind of in Philadelphia. Seattle with Russell Wilson. Pittsburgh's kind of done it with Roethlisberger. Baltimore's a little bit different. What I'm getting at is, in general, the teams that put together 10, 12-year stretches of consistent playoff football, they are held together usually by a quarterback who's there the whole time. Do you think that this system would actually be sustainable to get to that point if, they have 3 or 4 different quarterbacks over the course of 10 years?
Well, yeah, I guess it depends on if 1 or 2 of those quarterbacks is magical quarterback. I mean, Garoppolo showed magic for a couple seasons. Brock Purdy sure is throwing it right now. It's still such a small sample size, but go back over these 12 seasons, Matt, with the Niners, and they're going for their 6th NFC Championship game in those 12 years, right?
Yep.
And that's pretty darn impressive. The problem is they bottomed out in the years they didn't make it to the playoffs. There were some really bad seasons and some bad coaching. And that's where I think the coaching comes into play, too. It's not just the quarterback. If you have a really smart offensive coach who relates well to players, kind of understands his place where he's not just going around like bossing everybody around like he's the king of everything. I think Kyle relates so well to players here, even in year 6. That's what kind of gives me that they talk about. I think culture is such an overrated word in sports. But I guess it's just the general feeling that you get that you're all one team, that you're on the same side and you're all striving for the same goal. And, when Harbaugh was here, he rubbed some people the wrong way because he was so harsh and brash into his ways. And Kyle, he can be harsh too, especially in film review. But it's that honesty factor that players appreciate. And I think that's what carries over year to year where people are willing to listen to him. And there's no message that gets fired. It's more of an educational session of, okay, what are we going to do next to outwit our opponent? And I think that's what kind of keeps everybody excited, and you roll along whoever the quarterback is. And when you have a tremendous supply, I can't remember the Niners having this many offensive weapons since you got to go back to the days when they were winning Super Bowls, because everywhere, I mean, by bringing in McCaffrey, it just rose everything up a notch and made everybody around them better.
Yeah.
That was such a great move for them. And we're going to look back on this season and say, that's what saved them by going through 3 quarterbacks where you bring in McCaffrey, and it's holy smokes. So it's not all on Debo like it was last year when they went into Dallas.
Cam, great point. Let me ask you this about Bosa. I think I know the answer, block him. But what did you make of his game against Seattle? Because I saw Geno Smith. I don't want to say he was comfortable, but he dropped back 35 times. And there were times I was like, man, I feel like he's in control. Did Seattle do anything to kind of shock you or raise an eyebrow on slowing Bosa down? And do you think Dallas can do anything to accomplish that?
Yeah, I think what that Seattle game just showed that it's not a one-man show. And when Charles Omenihu got the strip sack and Bosa recovered it, Bosa was crashing in on that pocket too and helped force it. And that's even go back to the Raider game. He didn't get the sack, but he was the one that pushed the left tackle into Stidham on the interception. So we make such a big deal about sacks, quarterback hits and pressures. I think this could be a huge game for him, because if the Cowboys have to change their offensive line, which looks like they are going to because Jason Peters hurt his hip on Monday night, Bosa, he'll line up on the left or the right side, but this is a great chance for him to kind of, again, show the world emphatically why he's the NFL's best defensive player and get after it. And, last season, a concussion knocked him out before halftime. He had a sack on that first drive. He shared it with Samson Ebukam. So I think he's hungry to show everybody what he can do. Obviously, his brother's out of the playoffs now, and I think that might fuel Nick even a little bit more to kind of play for his brother.
Hey, Cam, as always, we appreciate it. Should be a fun Sunday at Levi's.
Thanks.
Hey, thanks, guys. Always fun.
All right.